Hey, everybody. In this episode, we're going to explore why we feel inferior to people with higher titles. So, there was a time in my career where having an SVP, a senior vice president, walk into the room would automatically give me the nervous sweats, and I'm hot, and I'm red, and I'm nervous. And it's interesting because if I had bumped into that same person in, say, the grocery store, I might not feel that way. So, what is it about titles that make us feel inferior? Turns out we are conditioned as we're children to understand that adults are authority, right? Teachers evaluate us, principals discipline us, coaches judge us, right? Parents have power over us. And that conditioning carries through with us into adulthood. Now, some people are able to kind of flip the switch faster than others to remind themselves that a CEO is just another person that puts their pants on one leg at a time, and if they've put them on two legs at a time, I mean, kudos to you because you must have like stellar balance and things. Um, but the point is, people think titles are job descriptions and hierarchy and responsibilities. But actually, what they signify to us are status markers, identity cues, excuse me, power signals, um, and psychological triggers, right? So when someone has a higher title, we don't see the person, we see authority. And that activates that old wiring in us that says, hey, I have to be on because this person has authority over me. And in the workplace, that's true to a certain degree, right? You report to your manager and all the way up whatever food chain you happen to be on. But when it all comes down to it, the difference between, say, me and the CEO is all just knowledge, skills, experience. It's not you are a better person or a more worthy person than I am. But those are the things that we tell ourselves. And it's something that you really have to focus on changing so that you can be comfortable in an environment. So when I got into a role, and I'm going to spit out all these words because it makes me sound fancy, I was a principal technology business strategy consultant. That's a lot of words, but you know what? Didn't make me any better or worse than anybody else. It was just the title that they associated with the role that I had in the work that I did. Um, so what is it about those titles, the VPs, the SVPs, the EVPs, all the people that feel more important to us? And it really comes down to when we see those titles, we associate evaluation, judgment, approval, rejection, consequences to that title, not necessarily that person. So we don't necessarily feel inferior to the person, we feel inferior to the power. Okay. And Eleanor Roosevelt, I do believe, said something to the effect of, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And when you think about that, what it really means is the feeling is something we control. We are not actually inferior. It's a feeling that we get when we're around people that we associate as authority figures. And so our body does that fight and flight thing, and we have the nervous system that reacts before the brain says, hey man, just a person, it's not a threat, it's not a danger to you, it's just a person who knows different things than you do, right? But it's hard, right? Because we associate higher titles with, higher value, with higher intelligence or importance or credibility. And those are stories that we tell ourselves that aren't necessarily true, right? So, what we really are measuring is structure, responsibility, pay grade, right? That's what titles are for. It has no impact on the person's actual value, their wisdom, their integrity, their capability. So when you have somebody in authority that walks into a room and you immediately, tense up and get all nervous, take just a moment to remind yourself that they're just another person. Once I started working in a role where I had contact with senior vice presidents in the company on a regular basis, I had to train myself out of that fight or flight response, that, automatic, nervous, I have to be on, I have to be perfect because they're going to judge me. They hold my fate in their hands. And you have to get over that, right? And it wasn't easy because early in our careers, we want to show our value, show our worth. We don't want to rock the boat. But at some point, we have to be able to step back and say, this is just a person. Their title does not determine my value any more than it determines their value. And once you get to that point, right, where you understand that the title isn't about their authority over you, it's about their responsibilities and their placement within the organizational structure, it's a little bit easier to, let your nervous system relax a little bit and, allow you to not have that fight or flight response every time somebody with a higher title walks into the room. It's not something that's wrong with us. It's the way that we're conditioned as we're raised. If you've ever felt your stomach drop when you get an email from a senior leader, if you've ever rehearsed what you're going to say before speaking in a meeting, if you've ever felt inferior or smaller to someone that has a bigger title, if you've ever feel like that you need to prove yourself, these are not factors of inferiority. They're factors that are conditioned. They're things that we were raised to believe, and it's hard to undo that. Okay. But the long and short of this episode, titles don't actually make people superior, just makes their email signature line longer. We'll see you next time.